Obama actually tried to extend the stay in Iraq. He had to leave because Bush and the Iraqi government made a pledge to leave. The Iraqi government didn't want them there. He surged the troops in Afghanistan, doubled military contractors in Iraq, is drone bombing 11 countries, and he even signed off on drone bombs where he knew it would kill innocent civilians, and it did happen. The youth are very concerned with that. How do you, are you concerned with any of those issues, and how do you respond to the youth who are concerned with those issues?
I'm glad you asked that question, because it's most people just view it from the top line, and that's it. I would obviously, I think everyone, the president included, is concerned with those issues, and I think if you look at what he's been saying about Afghanistan versus Iraq, they're two very different things. They're both incredibly different, obviously, and he's been very consistent, I think, on both. What he said was we were going to expand Afghanistan. We were going to. I've got to head back, but I one quick thing. Sorry.
Yeah, it's so everything is just piled on top of each other.
Thank you so much.
Doing photos and interviews. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Sure, take care, guys. But the youth are concerned because even Ron Paul says there's twice as many military troops in Iraq right now than there was under George W. Bush.
I'm not a national security expert, so I don't want to, give you any wrong information.
Of course.
What I would say, I remember having had the chance to campaign for the president in 2007, that he was very open about wanting to make sure we go after folks like bin Laden and reduce civilian casualties to the extent that we're able to. He obviously inherited a crazy mess that he's been trying to wrap up. And it's it's very complicated. He did expand forces in Afghanistan and is now bringing them back. I have friends who are home from Iraq now, thankfully, and I'm looking forward to everyone coming home.
I look forward to it too, but a lot of people are dismayed because a lot of the promises weren't kept, especially with Guantanamo Bay, continuing the process of rendition, and also signing the NDAA, a law which pretty much allows him to murder any American citizen he wants without due process of law, and he has already done so to Anar al-Awlaki and his 16-year-old son.
Well, I would obviously disagree with your characterization of that, but what I will say is that I'm glad you brought up something like Guantanamo. What we've been trying to reach out to a lot of young people to say is, if you look at the way that Congress had dealt with that and the complicated nature of the way that we had to figure out, when you're closing something like Guantanamo, where do you put all the folks? The president was pushing very hard to get it closed, but can't do it without the support of Congress. In a sense, this is a good thing that we don't live in a dictatorship, that we've got different branches of government. But the challenge is when you've got one president who's, we're just crossing in there, that we've got folks that don't necessarily, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure
it's okay, of course, first priority.
Making sure that we're, where was I? I'm sorry, I was trying to get
Guantanamo Bay.
Right.
So
making sure that we've got members of, oh no, I'm sorry, we're straight.
Okay.
Making sure that we're,
Can we take your picture? We loved your speech last night.
Oh, thank you very much.
You have a moment?
Sure.
We saw you in Arlington, what was it, a thank you?
Oh, yeah.
Here. Great speech. All right.
Give it to me.
Thanks, man.
I'll do it.
Roll hot and sweaty, and I'll take it. Here you go, right here. All right, both.
Thank you, guys.
Would you mind?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, come on, go, real quick. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
I should be your photographer too.
No. The last thing I was going to say, and then if you guys actually have great questions. So if you want to sit down and do something properly instead of having to follow me with a camera, I'm happy to.
I apologize for that.
No, and I wish we had more time. And like I said, if you want to sit down, I'm definitely happy to.
I really appreciate
so we can be a little more prepared also to get some facts on what you're talking about on both sides, I think. Yeah. But one of the big frustrations has been members of Congress. I talked about this a little bit in the youth vote panel. The average age of the Senate is 63. I'm not trying to deflect the question here. I'm trying to sort of illustrate a point, which I think a lot of young people on both sides of the aisle, whether they're Ron Paul supporters, Mitt Romney supporters, Barack Obama supporters, have a lot of energy that's a lot different than I think our members of Congress. So if you were looking at something just as simple as marriage equality or don't ask, don't tell repeal, members of both parties who skewed a little bit older don't feel the same way as young people do. And I think when you translate that into something like Guantanamo Bay, why is it so important to young people? What kind of future do we want to inherit? And how can we support the president to actually get this thing closed? It feels really good to... I should preface this by saying... No, you go around. I should preface this by saying I was, definitely out there protesting against the Iraq War during the Bush administration, And I think now that we've got someone in the White House who has been trying to close it down, I think it's having had the chance to see it from behind the scenes, it's incredibly complex. And one of the things that we were trying to do is find a way to explain to young people where are the pressure points, for example, in Congress. How do you get to something like 60 votes in the Senate to repeal or pass a bill that young people overwhelmingly agree with? So whether you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent like myself, the vast majority of young people do believe in the same things, whether it's something like peace and stability, or ending the wars, or investing in education instead of on tax breaks to big oil companies. Yeah. I mean, that's just, if you just look at that one item alone, what the president's been trying to do and what he's managed to do, something like freeing up capital for young entrepreneurs, right? Big banks won't lend to young people because they say, well, you guys have bad credit or damaged credit or whatever. Well, fine, we can all complain about that and we can protest about it, which is not a bad thing. We can write op-eds about it, which is not a bad thing. But at the end of the day, are you going to have a president, or are you going to have a Congress that are going to support finding a way to make sure that we're incentivizing banks to lend to young people? So there's something called the Small Business Administration. I made a joke in there. Their website is terrible. It's a government website. It's not great. But the information that's in there is really phenomenal. We've never had that before, where we've got an administration that's freeing up capital for young people to start small businesses. There's a kid I met in West Virginia who had a loan, was able to, basically takes all these old t-shirts, recycles the cotton, it's all made in America. It's all, it's like a non-profit, for-profit, and it's creating jobs for young people, so that we're not promoting things like tax breaks for oil companies. So my point is that it's incredibly complex, and that the more we can do to reach out to those pressure points in Congress, I think the more successful we'll have at pushing a lot of the president's promises that he wants another 4 years to be able to accomplish.
It definitely is. I'm very happy that you're willing to talk to me. Sure. I just think the main issue is a lot of people are afraid about the presidential powers getting too big, and with him signing the NDAA, he pretty much gets to do what he wants with any citizen. And he already did murder an American citizen without due process of law. There was no courts. It's a very dangerous president. Someone like Mitt Romney or somebody else could come in and have those presidential powers. Are you concerned about the NDAA yourself, and do you approve of it, and do you think it was the right decision that Barack Obama made?
So I think that characterization is a little different than what I would say, and I would say I would love to sit down with you and talk to you about it when I'm a little more prepared instead of walking, since it is such a serious issue. And I don't want to give you, I don't want to give you a half answer.
Will you be supporting Obama this election, Jesse?
I will.
You will?
Absolutely.
Even though he signed the NDAA, Indefinite Detention Act?